Hello, welcome to Chapter 3 Podcast, the show for readers of science fiction, fantasy, and romance. This is Season 3, Episode 11, and today we're continuing with our Dark Olympus read-along discussing Wicked Beauty by Katee Robert. Thank you to Izzy and Shay for holding down the fort last time while I was unavailable. Shay is back with us, and Brianna is joining us again as well for the discussion. So if you want to check them out, I will have their channels listed in the video description and the show notes, and you can go and follow them. And of course, if you are interested in supporting what we do and getting access to exclusive bonus content for every episode, consider supporting us on Patreon or channel memberships. This episode's bonus content in honor of Pride Month will be our LGBT book recommendations. It'll probably be mostly romance, but we might throw some other things in there as well. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, so Wicked Beauty, everyone. Thoughts? This was our first triad. And it was like Helen, Achilles, and Patroclus.
Get ready for me to mess that name up the entire episode. All night.
I listened to the audio on purpose because it's Patroclus.
Doesn't matter. My brain thinks too hard, and I cannot say his name. We're gonna call him okay. Pat. It's fine.
Pat.
This is Pat.
He's just Helen, Achilles, and Pat.
Yes.
Hey, it works.
Well, I don't think it helps because the audiobook narrator has kind of an accent, and so especially when you have it sped up, it's. I was like, "What are you? I know who you're talking about, but what are you saying?"
Yeah,
he is not my favorite narrator.
No,
I can deal with him if it's sped up enough.
I do like it during the spicy scenes.
Okay.
Yeah,
he says condom weird though. Condom.
Does he? I didn't notice he said condom.
Condom or something. He says it weird.
And again, I think it's just his accent.
I think so.
Yeah, it's gotta be. This is the one that I was like, Bethany, I feel like you're gonna be a little more mixed on. Because just how Achilles is. Like I knew going in, I was like, this is the one you're gonna be like, I don't know about it.
Achilles is the alcohol, and you can't deny that he is an
I love him so much.
At the same time, the man can just have his way with me and boss me around in the bedroom, and I would be completely fine. If he wants to boss me around outside the bedroom, there might be words, but
yeah, no, I would not be part of this unit, but I was by the end of it, I was rooting for them. I did not like him for a while.
I can see that. Like I didn't feel like he's kind of unlikable to an extent. I feel like even as
he's
someone
very
who, like,
high-handed.
Oh, he completely.
Is. But I love Helen because she also like doesn't tolerate it. She's like, yeah, no, screw this.
She does not put up with his crap and puts him in his place, and I'm like, yes.
Well, I think that's what makes her so perfect for him. Because if you were to think of like how Persephone's attitude is, like she would not be able to stand up to Achilles. Yeah. Whereas Helen like really can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's true. No, I really like Helen. I like the other ones, and Achilles. By the end, I was like, all right, you're showing some growth. I guess I can get behind this.
Now, one thing I have to say quickly before we get too deep into this is politics-wise, this is by far my favorite so far.
Oh,
everything builds on itself so well,
so interesting,
and I love how it's building
and how it connected to the Wicked Villain series.
Yes,
our Hercules reference.
Yes,
because Hercules in Wicked Villains is the brother
of Helen.
It's Helen's brother.
So when they talk about
say him by name, but a lot of people don't realize it's the same Hercules.
It's Hercules. Say something about he's off in Carver City living his best life
in his own little triad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Did you not make that connection?
Well, I haven't read all the books in that series.
Oh, that's right. You haven't.
Yeah, I've read a couple of them, but I haven't. Yeah.
Which is even more interesting when you read the Patreon short that she has, Hades and Hades.
Yes. I
haven't read that one yet.
So you don't know how they're
because
connected?
I'm not on her Patreon, so I don't know.
It's on Goodreads. I think you can there's a link to it on Goodreads.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's in possibly the first shorts collection.
Oh,
that
it
she
could be.
released.
Maybe.
Interesting.
I need to read. I have like a pile of her Patreon things on my Kindle.
Finding out how those Hades are connected is
Well, like,
will
is
make
it
you
his
gasp.
dad?
I'm not gonna say.
It's the only thing that makes
Spoiling
sense because the Hades there is significantly
My
older than
mouth
our Hades.
dropped when I saw it.
Okay,
Okay.
so they're brothers.
It's like a 20-page little short.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to track that down.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, no, I liked it. I also, well, the other thing that made me like not as, and this is totally a personal preference thing, but like I'm not as into the books she writes where they get sexy right away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like
And
a
that's
harder
fair.
sell on that. I prefer
get that,
a
though.
little more build up. I'm like, okay.
I love how much like tension there is though because of the fact that
Oh
they
yeah,
kind of
super
like
tension.
get like there's that tension of her and Pat being she puts her name in. I'm not joking. I'm calling him Pat the rest of the time because I was like, we're just not even gonna fumble. Like there's that tension there and like the jealousy bit that happens, and then when they like get down to when her and him, is it her and him or is it her and Achilles that hook up? Her and Achilles.
Her and Achilles
Her
first.
and
Yeah.
Achilles
So then
first.
her and Achilles hook up, and then it's like, oh shit, the tension
and that
is
was
ratcheting
such,
up.
that was so much angst, but because it was like
Yes.
such a hate, like you know what I mean. They
Oh, it
hated
was such a
each
good
other so
hate
much.
stuff. Like it was so good. I truly was like, yes, this is what I come to Katie for because she understands what I need in that moment, and it's
Right,
that.
but at the same time, you can totally understand why someone wouldn't like Achilles because he
Yes.
was harping on Pat so hard about
Yes.
staying away
Mhm.
from her, and then he immediately
And then he goes
and
and
gets
does
in her
it.
space and does
know.
her.
That's
So
Well,
because
and that's-
she is so powerful.
I know.
I
she
don't
is
know.
the golden goddess in their eyes.
I'm always side-eyeing though characters who are like, I just can't resist. I'm like, yes you can. Yes, you can. You are making
Okay,
you are
example-
making a decision that is
Bad
going back
example
on
of
like
self-control urges for men. Buy a Thread by Lucy Score. Like literally the man is jerking off in his office after talking to this woman because he cannot keep control of his pants. I'm like, excuse you, sir? You have to
God.
jerk off at work? No, that's not how life works.
That's weird. That's weird.
Right?
It's a bit
This is
much.
why I DNF'd this book.
Yeah, I would have too.
Yeah, it's too much. Well, I think the thing is like when you have a pre-existing relationship and you've set a boundary, which is what
Mhm.
they've done, and then you immediately go and
stomp all
do
over
the
it. Yeah.
thing, stomp all over that boundary.
Mhm.
Like this is the thing is like, and this is the thing, like there was some recognition on both of them that they messed up.
Yeah.
However, it was a little glossed over. I'm like, really? Trust is re-earned immediately. It's not that big of a deal because we all just like each other, whatever. I'm like, no. There's like lasting impact from stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is
I do think that needed
something
more
that Katie
discussion.
does often, though, is that some of those things she'll gloss over a little more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But in a real life relationship, there would be more time rather than being in the time constraint of the tournament, which is
Right.
why she didn't take the time
Right.
because she needed it all to
Yes,
happen in
that's true.
such a short amount.
Listen,
That's true.
I don't know how so much happened in like a 400-page book. Like I still am like I
Yeah.
could have done like
In like a
another 100 pages.
6-day week period most. Yeah.
I was like,
I
how
did
you
like the
condense
tournament
this?
thing. It was a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
The tournament was so good.
The tournament
I love
was
me
really
a good
fun.
tournament arc though.
I
People
know.
who like hate the
I like it
tournament
too.
books. I'm like, we are not the same kind of people.
No, I like
I
a
like a
tournament
good
book.
tournament
I think
book.
it's good,
Give me a
yeah.
good tournament book anytime.
Well, it also creates forced proximity because they're all
Mhm.
living together, and so
Yes.
there's like, and then even more so when there's an assassin. So like, well, now you're actually going to be in the same room together. I was like, this
Now
is
there's
good.
only
That's
one
good.
bed.
This is good.
Now there's
And
only
now
one
there's
bed,
only
and we're
one-
all going to consummate our.
We literally
friendship.
escalated really quickly to only one bed in this one. It was like,
Oh, we
okay,
did.
you're all forced together. You're out of your room because of this attack. And oh, look, there's only one. They were like, we got it all. Just shove it in.
And then they go to Pat's room, and they're like, Pat, there's a situation, and I need your help, but it's going to force us all to be in the same bedroom and looking over the one person that's getting between us.
I hope you're okay with that.
I hope you're okay.
How are you going to deal with that, buddy? Are you going to stay with me, or are you going to stay here?
You can stay with her first.
I also love how they get injured and they're like, yeah, I'm hurt, but not that badly.
Not that bad.
I'm not hurt so badly.
Not hurt enough that we
Yes,
cannot have a
that's
sex
right.
fest for the next day.
That's where I'm like,
it's
you're
gonna
not
be
the
fine.
same.
It's like, yeah, I'm hurt.
Yard
No,
work and I'm sore.
forget it.
And see, my response would be more like, if you're going to do all the work, I can enjoy myself. But that's about it.
No, but they're doing more than
No, but
that. I mean,
they're
they're
physical.
like
Yeah.
acrobatic. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
no,
Well,
no.
in a triad, a lot of the time, you kind of have to get creative if everybody's going to be
mean,
involved.
This is true.
Wow.
This is true. This is true. It's a very sexy book for how
It
few
is.
sex scenes are in it also, though.
Like,
Which
there
is
are,
interesting.
like, the sex
Yeah.
scenes are far and few between. And as a triad, there's only 2 from what I remember that you
Yeah, I think
get. Because the
Yeah, but
others
what
are
are-
like the separate hookups that lead to the triad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're like extended scenes, so it's like
They
feel
are,
like
they're
it
very
was-
long.
Yeah, they're
They're
very
lot,
long,
yeah.
which is why it worked.
I still wanted
And there's
more.
just so much angst like
still wanted
around
more.
it.
There is,
Uh-huh.
but I wanted
This-
more. I was like, I need them together a few more times in this book.
I loved the tension between the 3 of them during the tournament because you got the perspective
Mhm.
from all 3 of them, like trying to
Mhm.
look out for her, and then and it was like really interesting how you saw the same scene 3 times, but it wasn't
Mhm.
boring.
Yes, agreed.
And a good tournament book will do that.
True.
What did
I
y'all think
did
of
really
Paris?
like the ending. Oh, Paris
Yeah.
is the worst.
I know.
Yeah, can we all just
I-
like stab Paris a million times because he is an awful, disgusting
Listen.
human.
Please.
There are very few books I've read in which I have such visceral reactions to bad characters like this, like that you're supposed to. This is one of like a handful where every time now, even on the reread, I was just like, I hate you so much.
Seriously,
I was
right?
like, just come and be in front of me. Be a real person. I want to
Ugh.
punch you.
Yeah.
Like
Please.
if you died, no one would care.
Yeah.
And he's so like smug. Oh,
I don't
hate
even
him
want to
so
punch him.
much.
What I want to do is knee him in the balls. So he hurts
mean, yeah.
for a while.
If he has no haters, I am dead. It's fine. Like,
In the real world,
No,
his
you know
name
what?
is-
You know what? I feel like what he needs is public embarrassment.
Oh, so much.
That's
Kinda what he got.
This is why in the middle of the tournament, I wanted Helen to knee him in the balls more than anything. While
oh my god, it would
everyone
have been
watched
so good.
because he took so much from her already. For her to
Mhm.
publicly humiliate him like that would have been so
I think it would have been a really powerful ending that way.
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess like she was the one that took him out, but it was like it wasn't as much of a
It didn't have the moment to be as satisfying because we had to deal with the Minotaur or the Minotaur.
There was a lot, right? There was
and
a lot
also
going on.
Achilles and
Who I
Pat
guess-
almost dying,
right.
and,
We can
Poor
see him
Pat.
in book
Poor baby
6.
Pat.
Poor
Pat-
baby
Of the
Pat.
3 of them, I think Pat is my favorite. I can't lie.
He's
Helen
summer
is my
child.
favorite.
I love
He
Helen,
is.
yeah.
I
Sorry,
like
Bethany,
Like,
I did
but
interrupt your
he-
thought.
No, it's okay.
Pat is the one that I just want to protect.
Fair.
Because he is the type to give too much of himself to a person, which is why he was with Achilles as long as he was. But now he has Helen to help give things back that Achilles
Mhm.
isn't capable of, which
Mhm.
is why their triad works.
Agreed.
Because
Yeah.
Helen is the piece that gives the other 2 what they need and can't get from each other.
Yeah.
And that's when I like a good triad, is when all parties are
Mhm.
being benefited by all the people.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. Because
Because
then
she
it
does that
doesn't
well.
Helen
feel
gets her
so
confidence from
one-sided.
Achilles and her caretaking from Pat.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're all benefiting from both partners, and that's how a good
Mhm.
triad would work in real life. So it makes
Yeah.
sense.
This is true. Katie
Yeah.
does that well. I feel like most of her triads, I feel like I'm like, okay, cool, this makes sense. You all are working
The
together.
exception for me is the Sea Witch, because
Agreed.
I pretend that book doesn't exist.
That book does not.
That book doesn't exist.
I also
not.
don't like the Triad and the Beast.
Oh, I like the Triad and the Beast, but
that one was.
I
I
can
think
also
was
see
my,
why you wouldn't like it.
That one was my least favorite of that whole series.
And see, mine was the Sea Witch, sadly.
Like
Yeah,
those,
like,
those
there
two, I think
there were too many like stereotypes thrown into that one for me that
For
just
sure.
didn't work.
for sure.
That's interesting. But yeah, she, generally speaking, I would say, is pretty good at some way giving you, even if you don't like it, because there were moments even in the Sea Witch that I was like, okay, I see what you guys are kind of giving each other, but those also border on erotica, we'll say.
Yeah.
More than I feel like romance.
Yeah.
That one
Like
had
this series is firmly
Well, that's
rooted
because
in
they're
romance.
novellas. You only have so much
Yeah.
time.
True. That's true too. So yeah.
If the Beast were a full-length novel, I would have been on board.
That's true. But I think this series is really, like, especially this book is really showing where she's going with the world and the politics of it,
Yes.
which I
Yes.
love.
I do
Give me those
too.
politics.
I love the macro plot here, and it's the first one where I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I'm really
And the politics do continue
Invested.
in the next book, Radiant Sin, because I've read like the first half of it, and then I found out we
Okay.
were doing this, and I never got back to the other half. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna finish it when I'm ready to do the show. But yeah, all of that does continue.
Radiant Sin is poly too, isn't it?
I think
No.
that one's a polynot.
I think it is. I think there's 4.
No, that's
the next one
coming out.
Cruel
The next one's
That's
Cruel
Cruel
Seduction.
Seduction.
Oh, okay. I got them back.
Cruel Seduction. No,
Radiant
you're right.
Sin
Cruel
is
Seduction's a
Apollo
poly.
and Daphne.
Okay.
You're right. I got the 2 backwards.
Yeah, I did too. You're good.
All
I
good.
was like,
I'm
wait.
ready for that one when it happens. Don't worry.
People, that's going to be a very unlikable heroine.
People aren't gonna like it.
In Cruel
I like
Seduction.
but I think it'll be interesting.
love
I
me a
can
prickly
love
heroine.
me too. I like
Same.
it.
I do too. I'm just saying that's the one that I'm really curious to see what we think of Cruel Seduction, because it's going to be
gonna be
very different, I
interesting.
think, than the other books.
Mm-hmm.
I think publicly,
Yeah,
that one's
the
not gonna be as
politics
popular.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I can see that.
Here it's really interesting. I will say I loved the ending. I was
Mhm.
like, what is she gonna do with this?
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have been satisfied with it if anybody other than Helen had won.
Mm-mm.
So I think the fact that like she got what she wanted, Achilles had to deal with the blow to his ego,
Mm-hmm.
but then find kind of his own path to what would work for him. I think that was just good for everybody.
But I
Agreed.
also really like the way that they took Achilles out, in that it wasn't a self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have been really cheap for him to be like, oh, actually, I love Helen, I'm going to bow out, or, whatever.
Yeah. No, because that's
This
not what
was
he
like-
would do.
Right.
It wasn't his choice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but in some ways it was, because it was his love for Patroclus that really,
But
and
even
not
when
intentionally, but that like that mattered. And I think
More-
he realized that like that mattered more to him than what he
Mhm.
thought was the most
Mhm.
important thing, which was being Ares.
Right.
Which I liked that.
But it was such a split-second decision.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't even realize it until they were like, you've drawn blood, you're
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was, I think that worked well. Just, so good.
And I love that Katie forced him to deal with it. That's
Mhm.
another thing she could have easily glossed over for the sake of finishing the book.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
instead, she decided to take that time and force him to deal with it. And you hear his inner thoughts. It's like,
Yeah.
I was such a hypocrite. I expected her to just give up on her dream and follow me. And the fact that he understood
man.
all of that, made
that's
it better
so
when he
good,
finally showed
though.
up in front of her.
But it's you know why I love that so much though, is because that is in real life so often how things
Mhm.
go. Of like how
Mhm.
Yeah.
often are there like couples where, between men and women, where they're like, oh yeah, we'll just support each other, whatever that means. And then when it comes down to it,
Mhm.
sometimes
That's not
sometimes
actually
the men
happening.
can't deal. They're like,
Yeah.
no, actually I just wanted you to support me. Like I
Mhm.
don't I can't do this.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like the
growth.
reckoning at that end, like it's so quick how the ending comes. Like I feel like you're like listening or reading it and you're all of a sudden like, oh my god, it's done. Not in a bad way, but like in a like you just don't feel like the end is coming as quick as it hits.
It's so quick. Like I feel like this was a snappy book.
Yeah, it is.
For as long as it was.
Yeah.
Because you don't even
love,
feel the length really because it's so high
Mhm.
action, and then you get all the steam mixed in, and you don't kind of have too much time to sit on everything until at the end when the characters are also sitting on everything and processing what's been going on.
And I feel like at that part you're like processing the entire book while they're processing it on page, and you're like, okay. And I do love how much Helen was just like, this is what I had to do. I couldn't let you just give me away as a prize, basically, to Perseus. Because she's like, that's just not who she was or what she was gonna sit for, you know. And like she knows she like messed up kind of by doing it, but it's also apparent that Artemis, is that who he serves? Who is it that Athena, there we go. I was like, hold on, it's an A1. Which one is it? So
because you have Athena, Atalanta, and Artemis all mentioned on page in this book, so it's easy to get into.
So I was like, wait, it's not Artemis. I was like, so I feel like Athena, even when she like went to see Ares, and when they were talking, and she's like, you've got to make a choice, and like this is what I wanted because of X, Y, and Z, but you can also go be with her and help still.
Yeah. I like it too as a choice for how to deal with Helen as a retelling, because it gives it gives her back her own agency instead of her just being a pawn, because that's really what she ends up being. So I liked how this handled that, and I think the idea of having Paris be the like abusive ex-boyfriend is great. And I think it's interesting too, seeing, because we see her being so confident and strong, and then you see what happens when Paris starts talking to her and she just like shrinks inside of herself. It's painful to watch, but it feels also really real to like what I think a lot of people who are victims of stuff like that go through.
Yeah, it's exactly perfect. And that's probably why I enjoy this book more than a lot of other people, because I see myself so much in Helen.
I can see that.
Not everyone's going to see themselves in her because of that.
I can see that for sure.
See, I think part of why I loved the first book so much is because I see a lot of myself in Persephone.
I can see that though too. Like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see both sides of that one, and I do think that's one of my favorite parts of this series. Is none of the heroines to me feel like copy and paste of a previous heroine.
No, Katie's always been great with her heroines that way.
I love it.
Like I love that.
Yeah, I really like that too. I'm so curious to see what she's going to do with the rest of it. I think it's interesting too, because we have like just like a little bit of a speculative element to the story with the barrier.
Only ever so slightly, and I'm really interested to see how that's going to carry on as the series continues.
Yeah,
because there's going to be huge ramifications if that goes down.
Well, and the Minotaur's book 6.
Yeah, which it's really interesting because, like, obviously, like in this one, he doesn't get a lot of screen time, but B, like, is not really that great of a character.
Yeah, I know. Which I was like, oh, that's interesting. That like I hadn't thought about it before she released the list, and then now I'm like, wait, oh yeah, we meet him in this.
Well, he's kind of terrible, but I think that's going to be great because the whole point of the story with Ariadne and the Minotaur is that he is seen as a monster and he sees himself as a monster, and she's his morality chain, basically. Like, so I think it's going to be great.
I mean, but in the actual Greek story, they're siblings, so it's weird to me. Like, I don't know how Katie's going to do it.
They won't be siblings.
I know, but I don't know if in my head I'll be able to get over that hurdle. So it'll be.
They might be. Well, I wonder if they'll be like foster siblings or something.
If they were like step siblings or foster siblings that like became that way older, maybe.
Yeah. We'll
I
see.
trust Katie.
Yeah, I do.
I do
I
trust
trust her
Katie with
too, but having so recently read Ariadne, when we get to that book, I'm going to struggle a bit.
So don't
can
read
see
it
that.
again anytime soon because
Yeah.
I think we're a couple
Oh,
of
no.
years off.
Ariadne is a book that's going to live with me for a long time. That's a brilliant book. It's by Jennifer
is.
Saint, for anyone
It's
who
so
hasn't read it
good.
yet. It's so good.
Oh man, it's beautiful. But no, this is going to be, I think, really different. But I could see a world in which I could be really into a Minotaur Ariadne story. I mean, like I don't want them to be siblings, obviously, but like I think childhood
No, Bethany,
friends,
you're outing your
or
really
like,
weird
you know,
interest.
somebody's
for
going to come for
siblings.
me. Oh my god.
No.
But then
None of us
everyone's
want that
watching
part.
House of the Dragon, so like, you know,
Yeah.
just saying.
You have a point.
You do have a point. Can anyone really critique when they're watching any of the Game of Thrones shows?
Right?
Listen, in one of my reviews recently, I specifically said, "Oh, it's the Jaime and Cersei trope." And
That's
I was
amazing.
like, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. So I just double checked Katee Roberts' post about the order for things. So
Yeah.
Dark Restraint is going to be the Minotaur and Ariadne. And that's going to be book 7, I believe.
Okay.
Because we
Oh, I
have
thought
Radiant
we were-
Sin, that's 4. Cruel Seduction is 5, which is Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Adonis, and Pandora, which is going to be interesting.
So good.
It's going to be so good and so angsty, though. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And then we have Midnight Ruin, which is Charon, Orpheus, and Eurydice. I always want to say the name wrong.
Man, we're gonna have to come up with some good nicknames for me here. That's the people's name.
I'm just gonna have to spell them all phonetically for you, and that's what you read the name off of.
It's not that. It's my brain, like it's the ADHD brain, I call it. Like I'll read a thing and I'll be like, yes, that's how you say it. And when it comes out, it is not.
It's a different thing, yeah.
It's completely
For some
different
reason,
thing.
I always want to add an extra L in Pat's name.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's like, and
like
I'll be like, that's not how you say that.
Yeah.
Like all of my outtakes and videos are me editing me saying the thing wrong. And I'm like, that's not how you say that. That's like every time, just on repeat. I'm like,
But I have
and
to
then I just
say,
give up.
I am so like a little bit mad that we have to wait 10 books before we get Hermes' book.
Oh.
And we
she's
don't even
gonna
know who
make us
Hermes is going to be
wait.
with because it's redacted right now. And I'm like,
I'm excited. It's going to be great.
I'm so
It's gonna be
excited, though.
good.
It's going to be good.
I love Hermes, like one of my favorite characters in the
I wonder if
series.
it's even
Right?
a character that like we haven't even been introduced to yet.
That's probably why it's redacted at this
Probably.
point.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Because it's not gonna
Also
be
Katie
Dionysus.
loves to torture us with that one.
It's
Let's
true,
be
she
honest.
does.
She like takes deep pleasure in being like, I'm not telling
Yeah.
you.
Well,
Now,
and
Dionysus is not on this list yet. So if it's them,
No,
it's
so-
going to be interesting.
Dionysus
They've said
is
it's
Ace.
not. Mm-hmm.
He's Ace, so
Yeah.
it's
That's
not
true.
gonna be him.
Yeah, she specifically said that is not the love interest. So
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, she had said, I think it was either in a TikTok or a live or something, that during Wicked Villains, everyone was bugging her about Aurora. And so she's like, fine, that's the last book. You guys have to wait. And so in this one, everyone was bugging her about Hermes. So she
So
said,
she's like,
fine,
it's book
that's the
10.
last
You have
book."
to wait.
but it also makes sense because Hermes is like such a pivotal element to like telling the
Everybody's
story.
book.
Hermes is the linchpin.
She's in everybody's book. So
Yeah.
she can't be like book 4. She can't be book 5. She's got to be the
No.
end.
Yeah. It
But
makes
I just
I
needed
love when
her to
she
be
showed
like
up to
book
give her
7 or
message this
8,
time.
not book 10.
Book 10.
she's by far going to be my favorite character. There's
Oh,
no
yeah,
way
It's
around
going to be
that.
great.
I will be stunned if I don't like that book.
And
I adore
honestly,
it.
her chaotic bi energy just feeds my soul, and I love her.
Yeah.
Same.
Love it. Yeah, I'm so curious to see where she's going to take everything. And then, not this series, but we're getting Hunt on Dark Waters.
Mm-hmm.
I
Which
got
is also
approved. I'm so
I did
excited to read it.
too.
Yes,
Did
let's
you?
play read it.
I requested.
I'm
I won't
jealous.
get approved. I will email Berkeley.
Or you
On
just
that
email
one.
Katie and say, Katie, pretty please.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
that's
Probably
the
would give it to you.
No, I think if I email Berkeley and tell them about this lovely thing we're doing,
Mhm.
I will
that's
probably
very
get it.
possible.
It's a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know I have it pre-ordered, but like I'm like it's.
I have it pre-ordered, and I did get approved for the NetGalley.
Didn't pre-order it because I'll get it with her Patreon. So
right. Yeah.
I just wanted to buy
I'm in
the
her
double
paperback
exclusive.
tier. I get that.
Yeah.
I will.
I have
in
first
person.
dibs because I'm in the store, so I could be like, set that one aside and put it on hold for me, please.
So when you get the arc of it that sits in the back and on your little cart that I know you have, you'll be like, hey, do you want this?
If I even get it. I'm not in charge of romance anymore, so I don't know if I'll get first dibs.
Well, if the person in charge doesn't take it, you better scoop that up.
Oh, believe me, I will.
I'll have a little mail around of it.
I guess.
That'd be a fun group book that we can like write in.
Oh, heck
There
yeah.
you go.
That would be fun.
I'm trying to think. Other things, anything else on this book? I feel like it's like there's less.
Well,
So
there's
much
a particular
happens, there's not a
moment that I
ton.
love that we haven't talked on yet. And that's
Mhm.
when Helen's on the treadmill trying to run from her demons and Pat stops her.
Oh,
Like-
I did like that moment.
That moment, he's just like, hey, come on,
Mhm.
you're done. Not
I liked it
not
'cause I
trying to
felt
like
like
take
she
away her agency, but just to wake her out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she doesn't feel seen very often. Like I feel like that's part of Helen's like journey is like being seen by Pat and Achilles in the book. And I feel like that was like the first moment, besides when she puts her name in, that you see him like seeing her existing and like that she is more than Zeus's daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they
and
both see her in different ways too that she
Yeah.
needs.
Mhm.
Achilles sees her power and her strength and says, you don't need me to save you. You got this. And then
Mhm.
Pat's like in charge of her heart and her soul and taking care of
Yeah.
her.
I think from a technical standpoint, that scene is so beautifully done.
Oh my gosh,
Because
right?
you don't realize that she's in a spiral until she's out of a spiral.
Mhm.
Because like you're in it with her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so you don't realize that you're circling the drain. And then you're like, oh, because it was like I was listening to that, and then like you kind of you come out of it, and she's
Mhm.
talking to Pat, and that's when like my brain was like, oh wow, like no, she was actually like that was a really long period of time where she was like running at full speed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
And it
true,
makes
too.
you wonder how long he was in there actually watching her. Because that's the one thing we don't really know.
Mhm.
True.
How long he saw her running from her demons before he stopped her.
I do think it was so important for her to be able to prove her capability and prove that she was
Mhm.
more than a prize to be won. And I
Yeah.
think for there to have ever
And more than a pawn to her brother.
Yeah, that too. And I think for their relationship to have ever work long term, that had to happen. It
Mhm.
like I don't think that she would have just gotten over it if she
No, I
hadn't
agree.
been Aries.
But I also like how it ended in the fact that like Perseus kind of was like, you did something really dumb, but like we're gonna live with it, we're gonna move on.
Mhm.
And like he wasn't mad at her
Right.
past a certain point.
Right.
Because I remember the first time reading it, me thinking that the assassin was actually somebody from Perseus.
I thought that too.
That he was just
Like to
trying
scare her. Like
Yeah.
to scare her.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. So it's interesting that it seems like he's probably from Midas, which interesting.
Mhm.
And
I'm
again, we're
curious.
going to deal a lot with that in Radiant Sin from everything I'm
Okay.
remembering.
Okay.
Okay. That makes me really excited. I'm very like anxious to read Radiant
So
Sin because I'm
all
just
I'm
like,
going
where are
to
we going?
say, this is not
Yeah.
a spoiler, but all I'm going to say is certain people that came in for the tournament do not leave
Okay.
like they were supposed to.
Okay.
So-
Interesting.
That is all we're going to say at this point.
I
I'm
just like, and that's the hard part here is I feel like I'm just like anxious now. I'm like, I want to know what's gonna happen. Where is this world plot going?
Well, because up until this point, it's been a reread. And so now
Mhm.
this one is the first one that's not a reread for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
same.
also, I think this is the first one where there is. I feel like the macro plot is also just kind of rationing
Mhm.
up and getting
Agreed.
higher stakes
Yeah.
Agreed.
in a way that we didn't have in the last couple books.
Mhm. Yeah, which leaves me like on edge for the next one, as always. Like that's the best part about series, though, where I'm like, okay, now I have to know what happens next.
And if we're only on book 4 and the stakes are already this high, like what are we gonna do by the time we get to Hermes?
Exactly. I don't know. It's all gonna be on fire, I think.
I think so. And then Hermes.
So my question is, are we gonna try to do Cruel Seduction in August? Are we all gonna blitz and read it so we can do it like the second week of August?
Or
are we
we're doing it in September.
We're doing it in September. So we're doing
Okay.
something else in August. So we're going to do it in September.
Gotcha.
August, we're doing the Jacqueline Carey books.
Kushiel's Dart.
Kushiel's Dart
Oh,
and Castiel's
those.
Servant.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to read those for so long that it's
Yeah.
maybe this will be my excuse.
This is why we're doing it. I think it'll be interesting.
I don't know what Bethany's going to think of them. I will put it that way.
Okay.
I don't either. We'll see.
I'm
guessing I'll have mixed feelings, but I'm excited to
I think you'll see a
read it.
lot of foundations to what romantasy is now, if that makes sense.
I have a feeling it's going to be along the lines of like Daughter of the Forest, Juliette Marillier style.
I've not read those, so I can't tell yes or no.
I haven't either, but from what I know, those are not as. I don't think those are as erotic, are they?
This is like
because Kushiel's Dart is. It's like
Kushiel's Dart, like
Juliette Marillier's aren't, but I'm saying like in the writing style, it'll probably be similar in a lot of ways.
Probably is. I've not read those, but Kushiel's Dart is very erotic. I mean, all of their god stuff is based around sex. It was one of the first early romances I read.
Okay.
I read it very, very early in my romance reading. So
I think it'll be interesting because it's a book that I don't think I would have read some years ago.
Oh yeah, no, for sure would not have, Bethany. You would have like read like 2 chapters and walked away. Like this is too much.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm really
very
curious.
kinky.
Yeah. But now like I'm curious to see how I feel about it now, especially with like the religious deconstruction stuff, because the fact that it seems like it's intentionally playing with some of the
it is
I
for
think
sure.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I'm excited. Very excited.
It'll be good.
But I think
we're vlogging.
I think I've touched on most of the things I would want to for this one. Other than when Achilles first walks in the room, when Pat and Helen are starting things up, and he starts to take over, like that moment I was like, okay, Achilles, you can boss me around and step all over me, and I'm totally fine.
I do love that moment as well. It's fantastic. But yeah, I don't have anything else in my notes.
Me neither.
Awesome. What did people rate this?
So I actually bumped up my rating because this is a reread, and I had given it 4 stars originally when I read it physically as an arc, and then gave it 4.5 this time.
I'm in the same boat as Brianna here. I gave it 4 stars the first time I read it, and I bumped it up this time. My enjoyment level went up.
Okay.
I think this is going in a 6-star favorite for me because I just really, really love this one.
Wow.
Listen, when I read like thruples or triads like this, I want this dynamic like that is happening here where each one serves different purposes. I think I'd given it like a 4.5, 5 before, but I think it's going into favorites, like in my all-time favorites now, because just that dynamic for me is I just love it.
It's so smart.
On top of the tournament, like it's just in this series, it's my favorite so far.
And then when you add in the macro like politics and that like world around it,
and how it like amps up in this one, I just think it's like the book for me right now. It's my favorite in the series, so it's a 6. We'll see. It could change. Radiant Sin could bump it down. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I'd given it 3.5, but I feel like it's like a high 3. It's like verging on a 4. I think, especially after talking about it. But Neon. I mean, I think I will. But yeah, like Neon Gods for me is definitely the one that like so far is my favorite easily. The Histophagus.
This is tied with that for me, I think. But I just love a throuple. I'm not gonna.
And
deny
see, I
this.
am an Electric Idol is still my favorite. There is something about that morality chain where he will burn the world for her is something that
I do also love that. But I loved Eros in this one.
Oh,
He's so
so
cute.
true.
It was so cute, and he like gives her a little kiss on the head and stuff. It was so sweet. I was like, I love y'all's friendship.
He is a little cupcake for her, and I love it. It's so cute. I just want it. I mean, he's a little murderer who just needs to be protected because his heart is so pure. Like, I love that. I do, and I can't deny that is catnip for me.
No, I mean, I love that too in books, which is what's surprising that Electric Idol isn't higher for me. But I think Hades is just the end all be all for me.
Oh,
God.
That's true.
I love Hades so much.
Grumpy cinnamon
I
roll
love
hero,
their relationship with each other. Oh my God.
I would have liked to see a little bit of Hades in this one. Like, I wish that, like,
you didn't really see him in this one.
You didn't. He's not there.
Yeah.
Or even
I mean, nothing tops the foot. Him like taking the glass out of her foot. That caretaking scene for me was just like top tier.
Yeah.
And like when there's good caretaking ever, I'm really good with it.
Yeah. I think as far as like the romance part, like Neon Gods is probably still my favorite, just because like I love Hades so much.
Mm-hmm.
But then as a book itself, this one's my favorite. Just because of how much the world
it's so well built.
And because I read so much fantasy with so much world building in it, this just like speaks to me on that different level.
I can see that.
I can see that too.
But yeah,
sure.
I feel like the weirdo because I'm like, this is my favorite. But I don't know. There's just something about their dynamic. I love. Yeah. I've been loving like poly relationships lately in my book, so I think that's also part of me loving this so much right now. On reread. So yeah, I don't know. I'm here for it. It's fine.
Love it. Well, with that said, I think we're going to move into On Our Radar. We'll talk about recent and upcoming book releases we're excited about in romance. But first, if you enjoy the podcast, we always appreciate if you take a moment to rate and review us. We can continue to reach more listeners, and comment below with any of your thoughts on this book, the series so far. And of course, if you're interested in getting early access to episodes as well as exclusive bonus content with every episode, consider supporting us on Patreon or through channel memberships. Huge thanks to all of our supporting patrons, including our World Expander patrons. Stephanie, you make what we do possible, and we appreciate you. Again, this week's bonus content is going to be our recommendations for LGBT books and romances for Pride Month. So that'll be fun. So we've got, I know Izzy, you and I have a little list of some things, but if other people have something that they want to share.
Since we're talking about Greek things, there is a new fiction book coming out this month called Psyche and Eros. That is a book all about them and how like they are the epitome of like relationship goals, but is their relationship really that way? So I think it's going to be a really interesting take on Psyche and Eros, so keep that one on your radar.
Nice. Brianna, do you have anything?
It's not Greek, but
okay.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. July 1st is a book called Role Playing by Katee Yardley.
Yeah.
It is available right now.
Is it really?
If you have Amazon Prime, you can get it right now.
It's one of the first reads for this month on Kindle.
Yes, it's $1.90. Or if you don't have Amazon Prime, it's $1.99. But you can get it right now for free if you have Prime. Sorry to interrupt you.
I'm gonna have to.
The tagline and I follow this author on Twitter, and so like she's like her promotion has been fantastic. But it says an emotional rom-com about two middle-aged gamers who grow their online connection into an IRL love story.
I love it.
That's me.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it.
Listen,
and the cover is
so
cute.
They're like she's like 48 and she's grumpy, also. And he's like 50.
Nice.
I know my like WoW playing heart was like, what?
I love that.
Love it. Izzy, do you have one?
Yes. So I'm gonna there's like nothing up on Amazon for this yet. I don't know a ton about it, but it's called Turn in the Air by AH Cunningham. It is a Black love romance coming out June 26th. And it has primal play in it. And that's all I needed to know. And that is when you are chased. Like, they chase each other. And I was just, I need it immediately in front of me. I will run for no man, but I will read about it.
Okay, so the first one I'll do, I actually just got my pre-order today. It's Mortal Follies.
Oh yeah, I picked up my copy too. I'm so excited.
It's so pretty. I'm really excited for this. So it says, a young noble woman must pair up with an alleged witch to ward off a curse in this irresistible sapphic romance. It's a sapphic
Alexis Hall doing sapphic
romance.
is like huge.
Oh, I'm so excited for it. Yeah. So out
my list.
just about now. Yeah.
Yeah, it came out the 6th, so it's officially out.
Yep. Yeah.
I do have
I've
one
got another.
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's called Make Me Yours Cowboy by Dylan Crush. And so basically it's a country music star escaping to this place called Paradise Island. And he discovers a muse beyond his wildest dreams. And it's this beautiful woman that he meets on this island. And so I think it's going to be fun.
Nice.
Cool. That's cute. I know you love your cowboys.
I do. Yes, a lot of them can be alpha holes, but anymore, they're not writing them so alpha holy. And so even more, I'm starting to enjoy it more and more. So.
That's great.
We do love it when they're actually a teddy bear. They're an alpha hole.
Yeah.
They're a teddy bear disguised as an alpha hole.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's true.
Awesome. Okay. I have a couple more, but I'm going to let other people.
Okay. Are you good, Brianna, or do you have one?
It's like it doesn't come out till the fall, but Meryl Wilsner's new book is coming out in September, and it's a soccer gaze.
Yes. I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
I guess we should probably mention Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, because anything by her I'm gonna wreck because it's so good.
Nice.
That one's like the first week of July.
I've got Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. That is out. When is that out? June 13th, so next week. This is a fake dating, but it turns out it seems like she ends up fake dating somebody that she's like possibly they're like sabotaging each other at work professionally as professors. Listen, I mean I haven't read Love on the Brain, so I can't comment on that, but I really did enjoy The Love Hypothesis. It was just kind of candy, and I'm hoping this is similar kind of candy to read, you know. You just
and see,
enjoy
for me,
it.
like Love Hypothesis was good. Love on the Brain felt very the same for me. So if you were looking for the same book, you're in a good space. But some people prefer the heroine in Love on the Brain, and I won't say that that's a possibility. She was a little more likable for me. But
I can see that. But yeah, this one doesn't seem quite as it's not a copy paste situation. So I think we're in for a better time. We'll see.
Brianna,
I just enjoyed her.
I hated Love Hypothesis with every fiber of my being, but I gave Love on the Brain 4 stars.
See, whereas like I was the opposite.
Most people were. This is why I haven't read it yet. Do you understand why I'm still sitting on it? Because I'm like, I can't trust anyone. I don't know.
So instead of, in Love Hypothesis, when the only thing that is her personality is that she drinks caramel frappuccinos, in Love on the Brain, her only personality is that she's vegan. And you will learn that every 4 pages.
It's true.
You're not wrong. Again, I call her books candy for a reason.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like if you enjoy it, I think I just didn't want more than one book like that.
I think my problem was I went into Love Hypothesis with such high expectations because everyone was loving it.
Oh, yeah.
And so then when Love on the Brain, I read it for a video and I had 0 expectations. I was like, I'm going to hate this book.
See, I went into Love Hypothesis expecting to not like it because of how much I'd heard about it. And then I loved it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I don't know how to trust
whereas
anybody.
I read it early. The only person I knew who had read it was Mara, and she really loved it.
Yeah.
Because I read it before it got popular.
I just didn't like her being in like a student, like the student teacher relationship on me, especially like as a woman in STEM. I'm like, you are embarrassing all of us.
See, it bothered me a lot more in Love Theoretically, the like boss employee relationship and the way that he messed with her career, like that. I was
I'm gonna hate that.
That's the part I'm unsure of. But I'm still
not in Love Theoretic, in the second
Love
book.
Love on the Brain.
Love on the Brain. In Love on the Brain. I hated that.
Yeah. It's a lot of love in the title.
A lot of loves.
And science.
She likes to have love in the title.
I don't know. I downloaded the audiobook from Libro for Love Theoretically because I assume I will read it for a Goodreads video at some point.
Fair.
I'm sure I'm going to read it before it comes out or as it comes out. It's fine.
So I've got 2 YA romances.
Okay.
So the first one is Something More by Jackie Kalila. It's a contemporary YA romance about a Palestinian Canadian girl trying to hide her autism diagnosis in her first year of high school.
Okay.
And she like makes a list of goals ranging from like stuff with her eyebrows to getting a first kiss and landing a spot in the school play, and ends up in a love triangle.
Okay, no, I was looking at this book just like earlier today on Libro. So, okay, apparently I'm getting it now.
It sounded really cute. So there's that. And then there's one that I have actually read. I had a like NetGalley audiobook and it was adorable. The Do's and Donuts of Love.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've heard about this one. It looks so cute.
It's really cute. So
also on Libro right now.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a sapphic YA romance with a love triangle and a reality baking competition. And the main character is a fat Bangladeshi girl. And so it deals with like fat phobia and racism and stuff, but then also like fun melodrama and TV stuff. It's great.
Okay, cool. I'm really happy with the picks I had this month on Libro because you just first one of them and the other one I was looking at debating. So I just was like, okay, we'll grab that. That's cool.
Perfect.
Oh, one more book I forgot to mention is Love Letters for Joy by Melissa C. This is a YA contemporary romance in which we're following an asexual teenage girl and a pansexual male lead who are both very academically driven and they're rivals.
Oh.
I'm in the middle of it and it is brilliant so far. I love it so much.
Awesome.
And our female heroine also has cerebral palsy, and the rep for that is really good because Melissa herself has CP. And so she loves to have a character where she writes that into the story just very effortlessly, just little everyday things.
I love that.
So it doesn't take over the book, but it's there.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome.
And it's a rep we don't get a lot of, so that's great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, we'll be back I will be back June 27th with Leanna for the next book in our Witcher read-along with Baptism of Fire by Anders Sapkowski. And then we'll be back with the next book in this series in July. So stay tuned for that. This has been Chapter 3 Podcast. We're your hosts, Bethany and Izzy. You can find us, as always, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Chapter 3 Podcast. And you can follow all of us on our individual YouTube channels. Join us June 27th for the next episode. And this episode's bonus content will be available to patrons in the next few days.